Hello,
Hey Mario, good Woche.
Gibor. Well, we're gonna have a very bad storm on Monday.
Oh, really?
That's what
A lot of rain?
they sent me an email from the city.
Oh,
They must think
wow.
I'm a very important person.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, 95% chance of rain. Wow. Oh my, Monday through Thursday. Wow.
Yeah, but they're talking about, let me see what strong storm expected. Prepare for heavy rain, debris flows, and flooding.
Oh, great. Can't wait.
Yeah, how do you prepare for
Make sure you
that?
have good insurance.
Or you buy some sandbags, no?
Sandbags? Yeah, where do you get sandbags? Home Depot?
You get the bags. I don't know where you get the sand.
Oh,
I don't know.
the beach.
Yeah. I don't know how the world doesn't run out of sand if they use sand for so many things like concrete, glass.
Well, I think the sand is basically the shells that deteriorate. I think that's where the sand comes from, I think.
Where?
The
Shells?
shell, the seashells, as they
Oh,
deteriorate. Yeah, let's go. Where does sand come from?
it's obviously some erosion of some kind.
Yeah, it's eroded continental rock,
Hmm.
Shavua Tov,
and
Shavua
as
Tov,
well as
everybody.
marine
Shavua Tov.
sources like broken shells and coral. So it's a
Hmm.
combination of that.
Yeah, but is it constantly eroding?
Yeah, it
Constantly?
must be. Yeah, it keeps
Hmm.
rotating like that.
Hmm.
We're on Lamed Gimel, Amid Aleph. Tomorrow the daf will be at 7 o'clock p.m. Arvid Amar Shmuel Ksoval Shnei Dapin. The mezuzah has to be written in one column. If you wrote it in two columns, Tosfos says if you wrote it on 2 pages, two different parchments, psula. Meisve, Kosval Shnei Dapin. If you wrote it on 2 columns, Benich Labishnei Sipin, and you put it on 2 doors, on the 2 doorposts, psula. But but that implies that even if it was 2 columns and you put it on one doorpost, it would be okay. So that means if you write it in a way that is fit to be placed on 2 doorposts, it's possible. So if you write it in 2 columns, it's not good. According to Tosfos, you write it on 2 pieces of paper. So we have hinges for our doors, but in the time of the Gemara, they had like they had a hole with a stick that went into it. Basically, it was on the same side, like we have our hinge, and the door swung around it. Um, and this Gemara says that where to place the mezuzah, whether on the right side or the left side, because remember, you're supposed to place it on the right side where you enter. So where this Hekert Seer is going to help decide where you put it. My Hekert Seer, Aravada Avkasa, where that hole is, where you put the pin in to swing the door around. Echidami, Kagon Pizcha de Ben Trebati. So can you imagine you have a house with 2 rooms. Each one of those rooms had a door coming into it, but there was also a wall in between the 2 rooms with the door. One house was for the men, like the men would meet guests in that room, and then the place for the woman was where she did her private things. Now, this seer was placed on one side of the door. And that describes what is inside and what is outside. Because remember, you put the mezuzah on the way outside in on the right side. Not necessarily where the entrances is into the rooms from the outside. It has to do, we're talking about where to put the mezuzah on that door that's in between the two rooms. Reish Galusa Bana Besa, he built a house. Amle Rav Nachman Kavali mezuzah, he told Rav Nachman to put the mezuzah on. Amle Rav Nachman Flei Dashi Beresha. You have to build the doorpost, then the mezuzah. You can't sort of put the mezuzah up and then build it around it. All right, Amara. Asokmin Neger. It means instead of putting the mezuzah upright, you put it horizontally, psula. Any, it's not so. They put them up horizontally. In fact, there was a little door that opened up to where Rebbe sat in the yeshiva. So he didn't enter into the regular door, he had his own door. And in fact, Lavalei Mezuzah didn't have a mezuzah at all. But our kasha is from the first part where it says his mezuzah was horizontal, loy kasha. It's possible if you make it completely horizontal. Hadavida kistavira, Rashi says, like your ankle. So it's got to be a little bit like an L-shaped. And not completely upright, but a little bent, like our mezuzahs are. Versus Aini, there's another statement that little door that Ravuna would come in did have a mezuzah. Ahu ragel hava, because that's everybody went in that way. Only Rabbi went. It was not the general entrance. Where to put the mezuzahs where most people enter. You divide the doorpost into thirds, and you put this in the upper third of the doorpost. He said no, as long as it's not within a tefach of the ground or tefach of the top, you can put it anywhere in those. So they ask on Shmuel, as long as you're above the ground by one tefach and away from the ceiling by a tefach, Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yosef, there's a connection between tefillin and mezuzah. Makshira begoiva, the tefillin shalosh is put on top of your head. Av ksiva begoiva. So you have to put it on top, like mamish on the top, not to the beginning of the upper third, but all the way on the top. Now, Bishma Ravuna de Rabbi Yehuda. Ravuna said you put it between the bottom tefach and the upper tefach. Rav Yuna is holding exactly like the Tan of Rabbi Yehuda. And L'Shmuel Damar Kaman. But Shmuel has nobody who's saying like him. Lok Rabbi Yehuda, Lok Rabbi Yossi. Amr v'nei brave of Nasal Adam Rabbi Yossi. It is Rabbi Yossi, but when he means the top, anywhere in the top third is considered the top. You just can't put it further away from the top third. Amarava. Mitzvah laniach b'tefach hasamach l'shus harabi. The mezuzah has to be placed within a tefach of the when from the Rosh Hashanah, when you go in, it's got to be at least a tefach close to the Rosh Hashanah. My time at Rabbanan Amri Kadesh Yivka b'mezuzah miyad, so that you hit the mezuzah right away. Because you want the mezuzah to guard every part of the house by keeping it sort of as far away from the house as possible. On that doorpost, more of the house is guarded. Amrav Chanina. Boresh lo k'midas HaKadosh Baruch Hu midas basar v'dam. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not like a human king. Midas basar v'melech yoshim miftim v'am yishem rasoim v'chutz. The king is in his palace, and the palace guard is on the outside watching. Midas HaKadosh Baruch Hu enoken. He, the king, is outside. Avad of the servants yoshim miftim v'hu mishamim v'chutz. He stands as the palace guard outside. Shneimar Hashem shmorcha Hashem tzilcha yad yaminecha, which refers to the mezuzah. Dorash Rav Yosef prayed Rav Mishmei Rav. Hemik la tefach. If you put the mezuzah, there's a machlokas here. Some say you did it further away from the tefach from the street. Others say you put it in, you make like a recess in the door and you put it there. Either way, it's not good. Lema Messiah, Enicha bepatzin, which is the doorpost. O shetala lema malbin, or you covered it with a brick. Yesham tefach tzarich mezuzah cheres. If there's remaining doorpost tefach towards the Rosh Hashanah, you got to put another mezuzah there. And in lav eno tzarich mezuzah cheres. If there's not a tefach, then that mezuzah works. But that seems to suggest that you can put it in a recess. Ki tanya hi bepesach shachri adelas. This is a door behind the door, and it's not which needs a mezuzah. So habadek tanila. Later on, the Brisa says pesach shachri adelas. The door behind the door, yesham tefach tzarich mezuzah cheres. If it's got its own tefach, it needs another mezuzah. Im lav eno tzarich mezuzah cheres. So the later Brisa already gives us the din. The Gemara says that Brisa is ketzer ktani. It's explaining how it means when you have a door behind the door, you have to put another mezuzah there. But it's not a kashan or a support for Rava. Tana. Hamid lamal ben shulkinim. Instead of the doorpost being solid wood, it was made out of reeds. Chaytech shvoferes menicha. You remove some of the reeds where the mezuzah has to go, and you put the mezuzah there. You first have to make the doorpost, cut it out, and put the mezuzah there. If you made the defect, put the mezuzah there, and then you put it up, that's tasum and asui, psula, tasav alom and asui. You can't ready make it. You can't like prefabricate it. Vamarava, hani pischi simoi. These sort of door frames or door entrances that are not normal, p'turam namazuz. Now, what does that mean? My pischi simoi. Pliga braber v'chum mevabi yoisi. Chadamar the leslu tikra. It doesn't have a doorpost has two side posts and a top. So the top is the tikra. The chadamar the leslu shkifi. That they don't have the side doorposts. That means let's say you make a house that's got bricks, and you don't line the doorway with posts. It doesn't require a mezuzah. Amar Rav Shalom Rav Chizda. Achzandra. Zandra's like a patio.
Ernie, when it's talking about that, obviously doesn't have a door.
No, it has a doorway. Think about a log. Think about a log cabin, or think about a brick house where there's an opening to walk in, but they didn't line the doorway with wooden posts. There's no frame. That's what the Gemara means.
But we don't pass
potter-
that. We don't pass in that way.
Without a doorpost, you don't need a mezuzah.
What do you've seen when your entrance to if you have an entry
Oh
around
yes, like we'll see a shar.
a shar, you have an entry. That's
That's a shar. Well,
a
a
door.
shar. So a base shar requires it, but your house would need doorposts. Other entrances to a chotzer doesn't have this criteria that you need to have doorposts. It requires the mezuzah as well.
We pass in that way.
We'll see. Right.
Okay.
Here it says Hani pischisi moy p'turim na mezuzah.
I know what the Gemara says. I heard it. Okay. I'm just it's strange. That's all.
Chazon Ish and Orchaim, it says it's potter min mezuzah.
Mezuzah.
But that's a house.
Was there a door there, or it's just
So-
there had to be a door behind it? The door came and closed, but the hinges had to be somewhere. So they were in the concrete or something. But there was no post. Correct?
If you don't have doorposts, how are you gonna make a door?
No, you
How
can.
about a house that had like an open? Maybe they hung a curtain there or something.
Obviously they hung the door. Somehow they hung the door because it doesn't talk about the door. It just talks about the mashkof and talks about the sides. It doesn't mean that
The pikra is the ceiling,
yeah.
and the shkufir are the mash.
Okay.
Okay. Amrav Shil, Amrav Chizda. Achzandra p'tumana mitzvah. That's one wall. You have three walls. It's got a roof, but the fourth wall doesn't. There's no wall there. There might be a half a wall, like to support, so that the roof doesn't come down. L'fishein lo p'tzimim. That also doesn't have side. The fourth wall is completely open, and therefore doesn't qualify as a door, and then that side doesn't require mezuzah, if that's the only entranceway. Implying hayesh la p'tzimim chayiv. But if it had posts on the side, it would be chayiv. But the Gemara says, why should it be chayiv? L'chizuk tikru Davidi. The only reason they're putting those posts up is to hold up the roof. It's not really to make sort of a frame for a door. Hachi kamar. Afal pi sheyesh la p'tzimim p'tura. This Alexandra, even if it does have posts on the side, is potter. It's not made as for the door, it's made for the roof. And since it's not made for the door, it doesn't require mezuzah. Amra Baya. Chazina luhul ispladidi de mar. These were like patios of the certain person. The islu petsimi v'leslu mezuzah. He had boards on the side, but it didn't have a mezuzah. Davidi. Must be that he's holding, like we just learned, that if you have posts that are just holding up the roof, it's not really there to serve as the doorway, it's potter. However, Meitzvei. Beis Shar. Beis Shar is like a gatehouse, or Achzandra, this patio, Umar Peset, or a balcony, Chayev bin mezuzah. How can you say it's potter from a mezuzah? Here it says it's Chayev. And L'chora, there, those posts are also only to hold up the roof. So the Gemara says that Barais is Bagzanda de Beirav. That was an Achzandra that was in Yeshiva of Rav. That there it had 4 walls, not 3 walls. The wall didn't go all the way up. But that's why it required a mezuzah, but a regular Achzandra with only 3 walls would not require. So Alexander de Beirav be in Drutim Ayasahu. That's if it's more enclosed with 4 walls, it certainly would require mezuzah. What do you mean? So the Alexander Rumisa, Roman one, that you might think that it doesn't, because it's 4 walls, but it's more open. It had a lot of air coming into it, maybe open windows. You might think it didn't require mezuzah, that the dafkit requires a mezuzah. Amar Rachman Rav Yehuda, Be'ar Ziki Chai B'Shtei mezuzahs. And a house that is like a harziki needs 2 mezuzahs. Now, my Be'ar Ziki. Amar Papa Saba B'Mishmei Derav, Beis Shar hapasuach lochatzer ubatim psuchim lebeis shar. You have a guardhouse. It's open to a courtyard on one end and open to the house on the other end. Normally, the Beis Shar normally just enters into the chutzner. There's one entrance. That certainly requires a mezuzah. On the right side, entering the gatehouse. But the Arziki had another entrance to the bayis. And Rav Yehuda says it requires two mezuzahs. One at the entrance from the chutzner to go into this Charziki house, and one from the Charziki, from this Beis Shar to the house itself. So one for the chutzner, one for the bayis. Ton Rabbanan. Beis Shar hapasuach legina ulekitonis. You have a Beis Shar that's open to a garden. And also, this is a Beis Shar that has two openings. One to a garden and one to a room. Rabbi Yossi Omer nidin kikitnios. So a Beis Shar only for a chutzner would not require anything. But we treat the Beis Shar as if it's connected to the room, and therefore it requires a mezuzah. The Chachamim Oimrim nidin ke Beis Shar. It's considered a Beis Shar to the chutzner only, and therefore it doesn't require mezuzah. Rav Shmuel Damar Travayu, Megina lebayis. If you're going from a garden into your house, kula amelo pligi dechayiv. Everybody holds that you're chayiv. On the right side of the doors, you enter from the garden into the house. There's no machlokas. My taima, be the bayasu, because you're entering into the house. Ki pligi mi bayis legina. What about from your house to the garden? That means that heket seer is on the garden side, not on the house side. Marsover, kitino sikr. We refer to the inside of the house. That's where you live. And even though it's a garden, you go from the house to the garden, we consider it an entrance, and you have to put it on the right side. Marsover gina ikr. No, even though the heket seer might not be in the right place, the garden is always ikr, because that's where you're gonna go from. It's serving as an entrance to the garden and an exit from the house. Rabbi Rav Yosef Damar Travayu mebeis legina d'kolam lo pligi de potter. That going from the house to the garden, there's no machlokas. Everybody says it's potter. My time at pischa deginahu. We need a mezuzah for our house. This is an entrance to a garden, and therefore it doesn't require mezuzah. Ki pligi megina lebayis. The machlokas is going from the garden into the house. Marsa Rabbi at the bayasu. We view it as an entrance to the house, and therefore it needs a mezuzah. Umar Savar Kula Adaita the Ginu Davida. This Beis Shar is meant to guard the garden. The whole thing is for the garden, and therefore would not require mezuzah. Okay. Very good. We'll see you tomorrow. See everybody at 8 o'clock.
Okay, bye.
Okay.